Okay, I felt like playing poker, Mr. Marshall, so I decided I would record myself. And before I do, I'm going to add a few more points to the poker training. So I'm just going to read through this really quickly and then we'll get into the fun playing part. So playing within your limit. So I listened to this guy on a podcast talk about poker recently, and he said your bankroll decisions are made before you ever start playing poker. So the idea is you want to only be playing games you are comfortable to lose whatever's in front of you, and it's not going to affect you. So whether it's online or whether it's live, you want to not be worried when you're playing, oh my goodness, I don't want to lose this money, or else it will terribly affect the way you play poker. You have to play poker making the best decisions every time, regardless of dollar amounts in your head. So the moment money comes into play in your mind, you've lost your edge. So trying to protect winnings or recover losses is very dangerous. Each hand is a unique situation that's not tied to any previous hand, and each session is its own unique session. So just sort of food for thought in that way. Next point is higher stakes are earned after consistent profit at lower stakes. So, for example, if you can't beat 2 cent, 5 cent consistently, you should be playing 1 cent, 2 cent. Once you're winning about 65, 75% of your sessions, then you can move up. This is how to grow a bankroll in poker and get better at poker, because every stage you're going to be playing with slightly better opponents. So I analogize it to baseball. There's single A, double A, triple A, triple A, and major leagues. So if you're playing single A baseball, you can't just say, I'm going to take a shot at AAA baseball. I'm going to play a couple games at, 10 cent, 25 cent when you're a 2 cent, 5 cent player, because you just are not ready until you can consistently have a high batting average at single A or hit a bunch of home runs or whatever. And then you can show that you can move up. Next point is playing looser. I know we've talked about the idea of poker not being boring for you, but I'll just stress that playing looser is earned. My analogy is like dangling in hockey, no look passes, crazy moves, and deeks. What you want to do is start off with the basics, wrist shots, passes, etc., and then work your way up to a position where you can play more hands, aka make more fancy moves. So it's not that you'll never be able to play a looser style of poker, it's just that you want to make sure you have the skills built into yourself first before expanding your range of hands you play. So in today's games, I'm going to try and work on continuation betting. So again, I've talked about this before, but it's one of the most important things in poker to just make small amounts of money again and again and again at the tables without showdown, without showing your cards. It's raising before the flop, so you have the betting lead. It's betting again on the flop. It's as simple as that. You raise once before the flop, you get one or two callers, you bet on the flop, you hope they fold. That's essentially what continuation betting is all about. If you bet about half the pot, it only needs to work 1 in 3 times to make money. That's because let's say you raised to 3 times the blind, one caller, so now there's 6 times the blind in the pot. And now you're going to bet on the flop 3 times the blind. So you're betting 3 times the blind to win 6 times the blind. So if it works half the time, you're a huge winner. If it works 1/3 of the time, you're break even. So usually if you're against one opponent, it will work more than 1/3 of the time. So that's the idea of continuation betting. And the last thing, if I can get away with this, is going to be about 3 betting. So 3 betting is when someone raises and you re-raise, as opposed to just calling. And I want to show you the power of 3 betting. I'm going to try and 3 bet more in this session, especially in position. And hopefully it'll be self-explanatory how powerful it is. All right, let me get the games loaded. Okay, I got on 2 tables here. I'm sort of in the middle of stuff, so I might not be able to speak too much in a moment. I'll call the top left table table 1, the bottom right table table 2. Not much happening here. I flopped a set here. And I got rivered, but that's okay. All right, so we're going to focus on continuation betting. So I will play a little bit looser in position just to give more opportunities to continuation bet. We'll also do some 3-betting. So 3-betting in position as much as we can. I usually will 3-bet about 3 times the opponent's raise. So if they were to raise to say 15 cents, I would raise to 45 cents. And then usually if you're not in position, then you're going to want to raise more to compensate for the fact that you're out of position. It's kind of more of a math-based thing, but that's sort of the general idea. So again, we had 9-5 offsuit. Not going to play that hand. We have a ace-9 offsuit in the big blind. This is probably one we want to go ahead and raise against one limper who looks pretty weak, even though we're out of position. And then again, we're going to continuation bet. So we're going to bet half pot. We're going to raise this king queen on the right table. And then once this player calls the flop, we're just going to give up. We raised, we continuation bet, and we got called. So that was an unsuccessful continuation bet. Although we did bet 15 cents into 82. So we got 3-bet here on the table 2. It's a tiny 3-bet. It's an easy call here with 2 opponents. We wouldn't want to 3-bet this out of position against 2 opponents. That would just be suicide, because many of the hands that would 3-bet would have king queen destroyed. All right, so we're going to raise king jack suited on the button, and then we're going to fold this king queen. Didn't connect. Easy peasy. Okay, ace queen offsuit is a monster hand, so we're going to raise. We have 4 callers. So this one, again, we flop top pair with a really good kicker. We are going to bet 80% of the pot, quite a bit. And king 10 out of position. We're just going to check it and see a flop. We're going to bet this again with the ace queen. I'm going to check the king jack. And we did river 2 pair, which does improve our hand, but technically a king jack, king 10 got us straight, but we're not really afraid of the straight. I think we're going to bet again for value. He might have ace jack, and we just rivered him. And this king 10 I'm just not bothering with. Fold the jack 4. So this king jack is a playable hand. This queen 8 just against the blind. We're going to raise to 15 cents. Table 1. Table 2. Because we're out of position, we're just going to call here. We flop top pair, so we're going to bet into these 2 players because no one had the lead. Here's a 3-betting spot. So we have ace-8 suited, and we're going to raise about 3 times the 12-cent open. We're on the button, so it's a very good 3-betting spot. We bet the king-jack on the table on the right, so there's a 3-bet there. We 3-bet and we just won, so that was an excellent result. Sorry, we got a lot going on all at once. So this is an interesting spot. We bet the flop, got called, the turn is an ace. So we check, we slow down, and the river completes the flush. So it's pretty much the worst turn and the worst river in the world. If he called on the flop with jack queen, he has a straight. If he called with a spade draw, he's got a flush. If he called with an ace 10, ace 7, he's got 2 pair. We're beating almost nothing here, so that's just a very, very bad turn and river card for us. And when you 3-bet in position, it just makes it very, very difficult for your opponent because A, you're taking the betting lead from them, and B, you have position on them. So it's like you are kind of um, handicapping them, so to speak, for the rest of the hand. They know that you're showing a lot of strength, and they know that they're going to have to act first every single round. So this guy's clearly a terrible player here. He's been limping in every hand. A fold ace 9 against a 5x raise. This guy's clearly reasonable, this no-feas guy. Fold the queen 7, early position. Easy peasy. Six 9 offsuit, fold from any position. 7 8 suited. This one we'd like to see a free flop, and we do. So we're going to see 3 ways to the flop. We flopped the bottom 2 pair. So again, coordinated, very coordinated board. There's straight draws, flush draws, everything. So we're going to bet pretty much full pot here. And a straight draw got there. Actually, a flop straight would have still been a straight. So we're going to bet again with 2 pair. Again, I'm making large bets. And a 5 completes a straight. He could have a 5. He could also have a jack. He could also have a flush draw. So we're going to check, but we're going to call any bet, I think, on this river. If he has a 5, so be it. And he ended up bluffing the river with a flush draw that missed, basically. So that was a pretty good result. Sometime when you get to the river and you're out of position, you're going to check with the intention of calling anything. Okay, so we're just going to call with the king queen. We raised this jack 9 against one player who limped, and we got called by a terrible player, this fish guy, and we're going to continuation bet once and then give up if we're called. It's not a good flop for us because an ace is on the board. Table 2, a jack gives us the nuts. It's a 10-cent bet. It's not bad. We have 2 overcards and we have a straight draw, so that's not terrible. And he bet half pot, so all those things make me want to call once. He checked behind on table 2, trying to figure out if I could possibly bluff him off some sort of hand. We have king high. Yeah, we're gonna bluff at this river. He's probably got like a 9 or something. Okay, he raised. He has a 3. This is a weird one too. Okay, can we bluff? See, we're trying to bluff bad players. So I could try and like blast this guy off. Like an ace here, but again, making see, he has an ace. He has 2 pair. So trying to bluff a weak player is generally a bad strategy. Okay, so let's find some spots to continuation bet. Let's find some spots to 3 bet. That is the goal here. While we're waiting, let me tell you a story about a man named Steve. All right, 7 deuce is a fold. Jack 9 off is a fold. It's funny because we get some times where there's just a tremendous amount of action happening at both tables, and then times when there's just nothing going on. So maybe I'll shrink this one just a little bit. Ooh, so you can sort of see those cards. That might be better. There, see if that Looks better. Oh, my back is sore. Okay, we've got the ace king in the big blind. So this is a top 5% hands. Also, we got 2 jacks, top 5% hands. We're going to try and get lots of chippies in as much as we can. Hope that someone raises so we can get lots of chippies in. Okay, the button raises. Table 1, we're loving this. He's only got $1.70, so we want to bump it up to like 55 cents and commit like a lot of his stack in here. Now this flop, we got 1 caller. We're going to continuation bet. Again, a large bet. It's a fairly coordinated board, even though it's short, like small. And we just take it down with 1 bet. So again, even we had jacks there in table 2, but even if we had a hand like, you know, ace queen, we would continuation bet and we would have won that pot. This is just blind against blind. I have this guy marked as a weak player. I mean, if he checks again on the turn, we could bet as a pure bluff. He bets full pot. We're going to fold. King 10 is going to be a raise, and I can also 3-bet if another player. So we got 1 caller, and we're going to continuation bet Queen 10 just against the blind. It's going to be a raise. And the continuation bet, again, it only has to work 1 in 3 times to be effective. And there, it worked. We raised before the flop, table 1. We got 1 caller. We bet again on the flop, and we took it down. And those little pots, those little 30-cent pot, you know, which is basically 6 big blinds, those little pots add up over the course of a session. Okay, Queen 3 is a fold. King 6 off. Hope to see a free flop, which we're not going to. And again, if you want to play a little bit looser, you can do it. You have to be aggressive when you play loose. So you have to be 3-betting with more of your hands, and you have to be raising with more of your hands. You don't want to be passive and loose. That's the worst combination. You can be aggressive and looser, or you can be really tight and passive. Both of those ways can make money. Obviously, my best recommended strategy is to be fairly tight and aggressive. So here, this ace 3. I was going to 3-bet if someone raised, just because we're trying to 3-bet more, but we have an ace and we're on the button, so we have position, and we have a aggression. Same with this king queen. If it's raised, we're going to 3-bet just because we're going to try and 3-bet more, but we're the first one in, so we're going to raise with it. If someone calls, we're going to bet again on the flop, which is the continuation bet. Now we were 3-bet from out of position, and this guy is likely, he's on both my tables, he's likely a regular, so we're going to give him respect and just fold. I'm actually going to mark him with red as just a regular player, just so I know. Table 2, we got aces. Again, we're going to want to get as much money in the pot as we can, however we can figure out how to do that. Alright, so we're just going to bump it up a little bit because this player limped in on the button, so we're just going to juice up the pot a bit. And then our goal is just to get our whole stack in if we can on this flop. So I'm just going to bet most of the pot and hope he picks up a piece of that pot, which he did not. Ace queen suited, another monster, and ace 9. So we're going to raise ace queen suited, table 2, and we're going to 3-bet with our ace 9 offsuit. This is again a good opportunity to 3-bet. We flop top 2, And so again, we're just going to continue to bet. We're going to bet on the flop 41 cents. Got called by this Neo guy, our 3-bet. So it's the same idea as continuation bet, and we're still continuation betting half pot. This only has to work 1 in 3 times. Table 2, we got called, which we love. So our goal is to get it in by the river. He's got 239 left. We're going to bet 87 cents. Table 1, we got raised. So easy fold here. Going to raise the Jack Queen offsuit on the button. Again, we have position. So you can see on table 1 there that 3-bet was ineffective. But it doesn't mean just because it doesn't work every single time we shouldn't do it. Going to raise this ace-8 offsuit because we're in position and no one's raised yet. We're going to continuation bet this Queen-Jack. So we raise before the flop. We're going to bet once on the flop and then give up if he calls, raising this ace-5 suited. We got called by this weaker player, so we're going to, again, give up. We can always perhaps hit a jack or a queen on the river. It's 4 clubs on the board, and he bets pretty much full pot, so it's an easy fold here. 2 kings on the table on the left, table 1, so we're going to raise it up like usual. In this position with 2 kings, we don't want too many callers. We have 2 callers, which is fine. They're both short stacks. Again, we're going to bet a large amount, more than half the pot, 37 cents into 48. And this is one of those with an overpair. No matter what happens, we're likely just going to get it all in. But again, that was just a continuation bet. If we had ace-king, if we had king-queen, we would have raised or bet that, and they would have folded. 10-6, we're getting a free look at the flop. Don't like that flop. Just going to give up. $10-5, free flop. Don't like that flop. I mean, we have a 5, I guess. But again, we're going to play very carefully. So this guy bets the turn. And this is, again, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's bluffing because he didn't bet the flop. He could easily have a jack here and just be trapping. Let's keep your eye on hand. Table 1. Okay, snap folded the river. Bet 10 cents. That was weird. 6-3 offsuit is an easy fold. 7-4 offsuit, another easy fold. So we've had a few. Now we've probably had about 5 or 6 hands where we continuation bet. We raised before the flop. We got a caller or 2, and then we bet again on the flop and won the pot. And again, that is one of the #1 key strategies for building your bankroll, is just to play fairly tight, raise when you have reasonable hands, and then bet again on the flop. So this Jack-9 offsuit, I'm playing a little bit looser than normal, but we are in late position, so it's totally fine to raise with this one. And again, we're just going to raise before the flop, and we are going to bet once on the flop and hope to win. Now here we flop middle pair, so we actually have something, but even if we had Queen-9 or 2-7, we would bet once on this flop and hope that our opponents fold, and we take it down. If they call, then we can evaluate as we go. And there you go, it worked again. So you can see it only has to work 1 in 3 times to be making money, and it's at least 50% effective, if not more. So it's literally printing money. Raise before the flop, bet again on the flop. Don't bet again on the turn and then bet again on the river. This is just talking about the flop. When you get to the turn, if they call and you have nothing, you can give up. If you have a good hand, you can continue. But the idea of continuation betting is just raising before the flop and then betting again on the flop. I can already tell that this stump guy, see, here's a tell. I can tell he's a weak player because he bought in for $4, which is what the website suggests you buy in for, and he posted right away instead of waiting one hand for the blind to come. So I can just instantly label him a bad player. Free flop with 8-5, didn't flop anything. Turned a backdoor flush draw. 3 opponents. Check folding this all the way to the river. Six nines, easy fold. Okay, we have a suited ace in a terrible position, the worst position at the table. We could 3-bet this. We could also raise because this player is a weak player just to try and get one-on-one against this Abuzi guy, which we're going to do. And then we're going to, actually that's a monster flop for us. We flopped a gut shot. A 3 gives us a straight. We flopped the nut flush draw. Any club gives us a flush. We have an overcard, so we're happy to get our whole stack in here, hopefully. So I think if we bet enough that we're pot committed here, either 80% or 100% pot, and try and get him to fold, but knowing that if he goes all in, we have to call here. We missed everything on the river. The pot is $3. We have to bet. He has 60 cents left, so there's no way that we can not bluff him. Or sorry, that we shouldn't bluff that river is what I meant to say. But again, he called a bet on the flop with, hang on, we're doing a lot of stuff here. Sometimes I want to talk more about a hand. Okay, so we're raising king 4 suited. This is a bit of a loose raise, but we're isolating the one limper. So this is a little bit more advanced play. We're in a continuation bet once. It's a crazy flop with 3 aces. This one we raised, we're going to bet with the king jack. We turned a straight draw, so we're going to bet a little bit less, but I think it's still a good spot to bet again. I'm going to check back this king 4 because it's bananas. Oh, he's got 2 cents left. What am I doing? I didn't know he had 2 cents left. This Lenges guy. That is bananas. And we're going to give up on this king 4. Or sorry, that other one. My bad. I didn't know that guy had 2 cents left. So again, that was an advanced play, this king 4. It didn't end up working out in that way, but it's sort of next level. It's sort of like continuation betting, whereas if there's one player who limps into the pot and you're in position, you want to raise basically to get just one-on-one against that player because you know he's weaker and you're going to have position and you're going to have the betting lead, which are 2 important things. So that was an example with that king 4 of what's called isolating the limper. But again, a little advanced. I forgot we were sort of still in entry level conversations. So that might be in the intermediate tutorials. Okay, 9-7, 5-10, couple of folds. And again, just to go back to that one hand where I had flopped the nut flush draw with the straight draw and I didn't hit anything. My opponent had king high on the flop and he called a bet. So that's a pretty good sign for us. He got very lucky to hit a king, but even when he hit his king, we still had lots and lots and lots of chances to make the best hand. And then by the time we got to the river, because the pot was almost $4 and because he had 50 cents left, we're essentially risking 50 cents to win $4. So that bluff only has to work 1 out of 8 times to be profitable. I hope that makes sense. So if he had like $4 behind, I wouldn't have bet that river. I wouldn't have necessarily bluffed that river. Okay, so we raised king queen. We got this 1 weak caller. Again, continuation bet once. If he calls, we're giving up. But he is definitely a loose player. We know we can call with a king 10 on the flop. So he's super, super loose. But we do have to have a hand in order to show down against him. So we just gave up there. Our continuation bet did not work. but we just know we're going to get this guy, this Abuzi. We're going to wait till we have a very strong flop. So here's another 3-bet position. We're going to 3-bet again with the king queen in position. King 5 we're just giving up. King 5 we are still giving up, although we did turn a gut shot straight draw. I'm just going to fold. And there you go. There's a 3-bet that worked. It worked because we stole not just the blinds, but the person's raise as well. King 4 off, folding from anywhere, easy peasy. And the reason that a king 4 is so scary, Marshall, is because you get situations like this. Oh, you flop a 4, but there's a jack and a 6, so you flop bottom pair, and you're out of position, and you get in all sorts of trouble. And now this guy bet 16 cents. Well, I have a 4. Should I call? Should I fold? Not sure what to do. It'll just put you in really, really tricky spots. So not only is it like a weak hand, but it's not just about the strength of the hand, but it's about how easy or hard it is to play. And when you have like a face card rag, more often than not, no matter what flops, you're not really going to be confident and comfortable about going forward. Okay, queen jack suited, and again we have the one limper, so we are going to raise a little bit more because of the one limper, but the same idea. We're just trying to get one-on-one against this weak player, but we know he calls with anything, so we're aware of this. So we're going to hope to flop, a nice big pair of jacks or queens or something. And we missed the flop, and we know he doesn't fold, so we are not going to continuation bet. So this is one example of I have a read on this guy. I know he's weak. We're just going to try and get the showdown cheap, or hit a jack or a queen. I mean, we can probably bluff this river because it is a scary ace and he's checked all 3 streets. And it looks like we probably have ace king, ace queen, ace jack. Although I generally don't recommend bluffing into weak players. That is just one example where you can see, okay, this guy has checked flop, turn, and river, and he seems to have no interest in the hand. So let's do it. Okay, 8-5 off. Easy fold. All right, we've been going for about 25 minutes. I think I'm going to go another 10 or 15, then we'll wrap up this session. I think it was probably break even. I didn't have any crazy big pots or anything. I think the luck factor for this session was fairly poor for us because we had a few decent draws that didn't pan out for us. I mean, that's sort of the variable within session to session. Sometimes you're going to hit more of your draws. Sometimes you're going to miss more of your draws. Sometimes you're going to be getting called by your opponents when you don't have a hand and getting folded by your opponents when you do have a hand. And that's just the nature of the game. You can't control that. So okay, got the jack and the 4. It's an easy fold. Okay, ace-9 offsuit, and we are in the big blind with a minimum raise from under the gun. So this is a little bit tricky. Because the raise is small, I will consider calling it. There are 1, 2, 3 opponents already in the hand, so we are going to be apprehensive. We have an interesting flop here. We flopped the top pair with a so-so flush draw. I think betting this is interesting I bet very small. I'm just trying to weed out people with potentially another medium flush draw, but we're not too excited about it. The flush didn't come, so again, we're going to bet again just to protect in case we have the best hand, but we're not super excited about this hand. If anyone raises, we're snap folding. But again, this is an example of like, it's kind of a weaker hand. I'm not sure what we're out of position with a weaker hand, and I'm really struggling with what the right play is. So the river's interesting. It paired the second pair, which is kind of scary because people could easily have a jack in their hand with a club. So they're like, okay, I have middle pair and I have a flush draw. So we're not going to bet that river, but both of our opponents checked and we ended up taking down a sizable pot. Okay, ace king suited. Monster, really, really big hand. We're out of position. We're hoping the pot gets big so we can jam a bunch of chips. Oh, this is a really good spot for us. So we got 1, 2, 3 callers. So we already have like 40 cents in the pot. So we're going to make a massive raise and try and get against just one opponent with a big chunk of our stack in. And even if everyone folds here, we're loving life because 10, 20, 30, 5, 37 cents will be free. Okay, so we got 2 callers. We flop top pair, top kicker. Our whole thought is how do we get the chippies into the middle? And we got a bruisey in here. So we got this guy we've been talking about trying to get. So I think a good size bet on the flop. I think if I bet even half pot, $1.19, it's more than enough so that we can get everything in on by the river. This Joe guy shoved it all in, which is fine. He's got a king with a worse kicker, and he has literally 3 outs. So again, this is the danger. Remember how I had king queen offsuit earlier and someone 3-bet us and we folded? That's why, because it's not a bad hand, but when people 3-bet you, it can be dominated like in that situation. And when your hand's dominated like that, he had 3 outs times 4, so we were about a 9-1 favorite to win that pot when he put $3 of his chips in. 10 jack suited, no one's in the pot. We're gonna raise it. We got 2 callers. Okay, this is interesting. We flop top 2 pair, but it's also a flush draw. So this is an example of a coordinated board. There's also king queen, 9 queen, lots of straight draws out there. So we're gonna bet quite a bit. And we take it down. We continuation bet, we take it down. So again, just the power of raising before the flop and betting again on the flop. You are amazed how many times it works. All right, 9-4 offsuit, easy fold. Okay, I think we'll play one more round. So we'll let the blinds get to us, play one more round, hopefully have one more interesting hand. So ace-3 offsuit might look pretty. We're in early position. If I were on the button, I might raise with it if no one's in the pot yet, but early position, it's a pretty easy fold. Okay, king 8 off under the gun, early position, easy fold. Jack 8 suited. We're just going to let this go. We're just against one opponent. We're out of position. So if we call here, we do not have the betting lead. We do not have position. I like to have at least one of those 2 things, if not both. So we're going to fold. 10-4 off, easy fold. And I'll just click the sit out next big blind on this table. So we'll just play our free hands. Okay, ace jack off is a premium hand, top 10, 12%. If this guy raises, we're going to 3-bet. If no one raises yet, we're going to raise. 2-6 off, easy fold. And we just took the blinds, and that's okay to take the blinds. Nothing wrong with money. Jack 8 suited. This is borderline. I'll raise with it just because it's near the end of the hand and we're in fairly late position. But it's, you know, it's here or there. And again, this guy 3-bet. So this D Silver guy's 3-bet us a couple times. So we know he's a reasonable player. I think the marking him of an red is totally reasonable. An ace 10 offsuit is worth a raise, of course. And at these stakes, very few people would say get out of line with 3-betting. Like, they're not going to be 3-betting like wild monkeys. It tends to be much more towards quality hands. Okay, a perfect example. We raised before the flop. We're going to bet once on the flop. If we get called or raised, we're done with the hand because we have ace high. But a lot of times, look at that, he folded. All right, so we're done that table. Got a few more hands at the other table. We'll play them out. And I hope that this video sort of showed you the power of continuation betting. We didn't get that many opportunities to 3-bet. And maybe 3-betting at low stakes is not as effective because people don't like to fold as much. But a lot of times in higher stakes, as you move up in the stakes, 3-betting is sort of like the next level of continuation betting. So everyone continuation bets. So now in order to take it to the next level, you have to do more 3-betting, which is just raising someone who raises pre-flop. Another sign of a better player versus a worse player is like this D Silver, for example, is playing at multiple tables. So if you see someone playing at 2 or 3 or 4 tables, it's more likely that they have at least some skill. Oh look, I got the same game going at both. That's weird. Let me close one of these. Oop. I can make this one big. Look at that. That's juicy. Aces against 6 quad 6s. That is a pretty dirty situation. And the other thing about the D Silver is as soon as he lost that hand, his pot or his stack immediately reloaded to maximum. So it's another sign that it's a better player versus a worse player. Let's watch this. Okay, it was an unraised pot. It's only 21 cents in the pot. Everyone's checking. Now, if I were to be like a grinding player, I would see this a Bozy guy, and I'd see that he has $8 and he just got lucky and cracked aces. And I'd never want to leave this table because I want to take all of his chips. So I already sort of have my eyeball on him as someone I want to target to make money from. All right, we have ace queen offsuit. We have one limper, so we're going to raise even more than normal just to try and get isolated against this one player and hopefully get position. So both these guys folded, which is great because we now have position. Excuse me, for the rest of the hand. And we got our 2 fishy players to call, so we're loving it. We flop top pair, top kicker, so we're loving that as well. We are pretty excited to get a decent amount of chippies in the middle. And again, we have a weak lead. So this guy bet into us, but he bet a very small amount. So we're going to raise his weak lead. Hopefully just get one-on-one against him. Although a Bozy's in here, so we're hoping to stack him. And he quickly called. So again, I think we can bet again here with fairly high confidence. He might have a queen here with a bad kicker, like a queen 10 or a queen jack. We're going to bet a pretty good chunk. And the middle pair paired, which is, it's a little bit concerning. I think for value, we can bet this river. He only has 237 behind. It's close, but we're gonna bet because it's more likely for him to have a queen 10 or a queen jack or even a queen king than it is for him to have 4 here. I don't think he'd probably call the big bet on the turn with a 4. So he's thinking he's probably got a queen. Oh, he's got aces. Wow. Okay, that was a surprise. So everything was great about that hand. I'd say the river bet was, I haven't really talked to you about this, but it was called a thin bet. So you're betting where you think you have the best hand. You have more than half of the time you're going to have the best hand. So again, if someone plays aces like that completely passively all the way to the river, it's impossible to read them. But I think in that instance, perhaps that river bet was, to get value on the flop and turn and river with one pair is a little bit maybe loose, but I think overall that's just life. Oh shit. I forgot to sit out. All right, I'm going to run away now. Peace be with you. Thanks for watching.